Before I touch on today's discussion, I want to kind of dive into Cole Allen. Cole Allen is the gentleman, 31 years of age, who created the incident at the White House function dinner or conference dinner that they had at the Hilton in Washington, D.C., which is my hometown, no less. And I just want to give you guys a little bit of background, not on Cole Allen, but just on the incident itself. I know that it's been blown up all over media. So you guys are familiar with the incident itself. Now, as I was diving into this, I really didn't see a picture of Cole Allen initially. So I was very interested in who and what Cole Allen is and what. But it says here that we believe that the two firearms he had on him had purchased within the past couple of years. He checked into the hotel where the correspondence dinner was at within his last day or two. Okay. It goes on to state that this aligns with part of a manifesto allegedly written by the shooter obtained by U.S. media, which is critical of the level of security in or around the hotel. Apparently, no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before it read. This is part of the manifesto that Cole Allen actually had. The shooter also referenced his family several times in the document and his Christian faith. This is at odds with Mr. Trump said in an interview with 60 Minutes when he claimed Mr. Allen had become an anti-Christian. He's been going through a lot based on what he wrote. Mr. Trump said Mr. Allen appears to have donated $25 towards Kamala Harris' president campaign in October 24, his only registered political donation. Okay. Then I saw this picture regarding Cole Allen. And I was like, that looks not familiar as I know the guy, but he looks like he could be mixed with black, right? He is fair. He is fair skinned and very, very light skinned. But I'm looking at his phenotype. I'm looking at a lot of his, features here. And I'm like, he's just like a light skinned black dude. I'm like, is this guy black? That's the first thing. Cause I think a lot of times when incidents happen, whether it be mass shootings, mad killing, attacks that could potential threat with the president or a political official, I think that a lot of black people, we look at that, is this person black? Especially when we kind of look at the names. Some names we already know, okay, that person not black, right? 9 times out of 10, we are correct. Cole Allen, that's kind of one of those in-between names. You really don't know Cole. There's a couple of, maybe black guys you may be familiar with that are black, but mostly Cole is in my opinion, a non-black American name. But nevertheless, when I saw the picture, I was like, okay, this is his picture. He looks like a light-skinned black guy. Goes on to say he was a very good student indeed, always sitting in the front row of the class, paying attention and frequently emailing me with the coursework questions, he said. So he was soft-spoken, very polite, a good fellow. I'm very shocked to see the news. Mr. Allen previously attended the highly prestigious college, Caltech, where he studied a Bachelor of Science Mechanical Engineering. So again, they can't say that he's low IQ, that he's a radical. There's a lot of things that are going to come out. Oh, and he's anti-Christian. We probably would never know the reason unless it's part of his manifesto and they released a full manifesto of what Cole Allen was actually thinking and what was his plans to do. Was his plans to disrupt, this annual White House dinner, or was he indeed trying to impose harm on the president or maybe one of the high-ranking political officials? Again, nothing that the manifesto that was released as of yet shows that. Mr. Allen previously attended the highly prestigious college Caltech, where he developed a prototype for a new type of wheelchair emergency brake, which he spoke about in 2017 interview with ABC 7 LA and an Asian into the Future conference. So very intelligent guy, created a couple of things. He was part of the Caltech team that won a robot soccer competition and participated in the Caltech Christian Fellowship and Nerve Club. So the one thing that is consistent, that he's very intelligent, that he is a Christian, okay? And it goes on to his career. He's been a teacher. He's been doing a lot of things in his career. Congratulations to Cole Allen from C2 Education of Torrance of being honored as our December Teacher of the Month. Now, do I approve of his actions? Because that's what a lot of people are going to say. No, I do not. I do not approve of Cole Allen's action at all. But to dim a light on his, let's say, his background and a lot of his achievements, we don't want to have the looming effect that, once it's going to come out pretty soon here in public eye that he's a black man. And let me double down on that and why this is important, because usually these are not crimes or incidents that Black people usually get involved with, right? So on Facebook here, they have a picture of his family, right? And right here on the steps, this is Cole Allen right here. And these are his brothers, and that is his dad. So, and I believe he's standing right beside his mom. So he is a Black man considered this country, but he is mixed. But nevertheless, this is his family. But they're going to try. I wonder if they're going to say if he's mixed or if he's Black, because on some regards, when you look at Obama, they stated that he was the first Black president. Some people say that no, he's not Black, he's mixed, so he's Black and white. He's the first mixed president. I wonder how they're going to chop this up. I just don't know. Now, if anybody wants to know the details of this, again, this happened this Saturday, and this was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and this came very quickly because President Trump had made some comments alluding that this is why the ballroom for the White House is so important, because security would be tighter. And he was very young. It states right here that Cole Allen was 31 years of age, right? He's from California, charged towards a security checkpoint, armed with a shotgun and handgun and multiple knives. Now, that's not very intelligent. That's not very smart. He charged towards a security checkpoint. And I believe he was also, when I was reading this entire story, ladies and gentlemen, that he was, I believe, initially on the wrong floor. So that could be another piece of evidence that they may reveal a little bit later. It stated that here the shooting suspect opened fire, striking a Secret Service agent in his protective vest. The agent was injured but survived. The Secret Service agent rushed President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, and Vice President J.D. Vance from the stage while guests took cover under tables. Trump briefly fell while being escorted off stage, according to reports. Okay. And this is not how we should go about doing things. And I don't mean just Black people. I just mean American citizens in general. I think that we should do things very peacefully, very civilly, very politically, even though I know we have in the past and nothing really has changed, but we have to continue to fight on in a very civil manner. But I just wanted to give you guys the background on this because they're going to make justification for a lot of things that President Trump has done. Especially in DC. And that's where we're going to get involved here this morning, because I was still going to do this video, but this kind of ties somewhat into it. Now, granted, I know that the title has, he has a hit list of Black mayors. I know that Mayor Zohran Mamdani, I always pronounce his name incorrectly, my apologies, is not Black, but majority of the mayors are Black. Karen Bass, the guy out of Chicago, and there's another one, Muriel. And we'll get into it. I kind of got the names in my head, but we're going to get into it right here, ladies and gentlemen. But I wanted to show you a couple of things first, because it's utterly important, because here is the exact quote from the rally that he had. And this is stemming off some things that occurred last year when he was trying to lock down a lot of these blue cities. And I'm going to get into this list, why this list is important, because these are some of the places that I named last year of why President Trump didn't go inside these cities. But President Trump stated, it's kind of hard quoting this guy, but nevertheless, I'm just going to quote it. He stated that we're going to federalize these cities. He was talking about Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and DC. We're going to take them over, he stated. They don't know how to run a city. They don't know how to run a lemonade stand. I'm telling you right now, we have to send the National Guard. We're going to send the National Guard. And if we have to send the military in, we're going to send the military in. And that's basically what he stated. And these are not my words. Those are his words. This is not a hot take. This is a transcript from the president himself. Okay. Now, why this is important, because you have Karen Bass of Los Angeles, Brandon Johnson, that's his name, of Chicago, Zohran Mamdani of New York, and Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C., right? You have 4 mayors, 4 cities, and one common denominator. And the National Press Corps treated it like a campaign aside. But I'm going to be real with you guys, because if the president of Colombia or the president of South Africa named 4 mayors of his own country's largest cities from a rally stage and talked about sending the military into those cities, the State Department will be releasing a travel advisory by Tuesday morning. But when it happens here, right here in these United States of America, on a Saturday night in Michigan, we call it rally talk. And it's not really rally talk. This is a declared intention by the president when he made these comments. Because I really want you to meet the 4 names on the list, because the press is going to reduce them to party labels, and I'm not going to do any of the such, right? Because I kind of just rattled off the names. But first Black woman to lead LA, to lead LA. She was elected in 2022, and she was also reelected in 2026 with a 21% margin. She is the mayor who walked into the January 2025 wildfires, the 2026 ICE raids at Home Depot on Vermont Avenue, and a 34% homelessness reduction in her first term. She is not a token. She's a grown administrator. Now, she's not doing nothing really for the Black citizens in California. We're talking about Karen Bass. I know you guys got that by now. But nevertheless, she has done some things when it comes to reducing the homelessness in California. Now, Brandon Johnson, we are familiar with him. The mayor of Chicago. 49 years old, former Cook County Commissioner and Chicago Teachers Union organizer. He inherited a city with $800 million budget hold and a 19% gun violence reduction on his watch. Now, whatever you think about his politics, which I have a lot to say about Brandon Johnson, and believe me, majority of it is not positive, but nevertheless, he's an educator by training and a Black father of three, raising his family on the west side of the city of Chicago. And he pretty much didn't do nothing for his Black residents except support the illegal immigrants that, the Republicans dropped off in the state because it's a sanctuary city. I digress. Now, Zohran Mamdani, New York, 34 years of age, youngest mayor of New York in more than a century. He's the first Muslim mayor, first South Asian mayor, sworn in on the 1st of this year. Freeze on stabilized apartments, a fare-free bus pilot across 5 boroughs, and a public response to the Timothy Brown New York Public Department beating that got him cited in 11 different international papers. He is 34 years old, and he's not even voting. But again, we'll see what he does, because again, it's only 3 or 4 months he's actually been the mayor of New York. So we'll see. I don't really have anything to state just yet, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the year we have more to talk about. Muriel Bowser, I always mispronounce her name, so don't hold it to me, family. Okay. Now, my hometown, Washington, D.C., 53 years of age, serving her 3rd term, the mayor who had to stand on the lawn of the White House on January 6, 2021, and watch the Capitol basically burn while federal troops. She did not command where 30 minutes later. She has governed D.C. through 4 administrations. She is the senior Black mayor on the list, and she's the only one whose city already operates under direct congressional oversight. So basically, she has power, she has influence, but if Congress dictates that the president can take over, they can. But this is exactly why Trump naming her is a legal signal, not a campaign joke. So basically, these 4 cities, and I know this was really hot topic last year, but we're going to connect the dots here about this executive order and how it's basically eliminating consent decrees. But nevertheless, when I look at this, ladies and gentlemen, here are some of the cities from Republican ran governors, right? So, now, excuse me, this is not this one, my apologies. It goes on to say, these deployments often focus on a crime reduction. These are the cities where National Guard was actually deployed: Chicago, LA, Memphis, New Orleans, DC. And it was going to be deployed on Portland, but it got blocked by a federal judge, okay? Now, here are the states that are Republican ran with some of the highest murder rates. And they never talked about sending in National Guard troops or activating the national troops through congressional approval with these particular states: Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri, South Carolina, and Arkansas. And as you see here, ladies and gentlemen, it says Mississippi consistently ranks among the highest in the nation for per capita murder rates. Louisiana has held one of the highest murder rates in the country for most of the last 2 decades, but he didn't do that. Again, we're getting to it. We have to build the background, because I don't know if you guys are familiar, and I'll just jump ahead just a tad bit here. Last year, the Trump administration initiated a shift to eliminate or severely restrict federal police consent decrees, court-approved reform agreements between the Justice Department and the municipal police departments. It states here that these actions align with a broader April 28, 2025 executive order strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent civilians, which promotes aggressive policing tactics and reduce federal oversight. Now, lately, I've been giving you guys context of a lot of police brutalization of Black people. It's on the rise again. And this is because they now are understanding that there's no more consent decrees. Okay. It goes on to state here that dismantling oversight, the DOJ is actively walking away from and seeking to terminate existing court order police reforms in various cities. This is why I say we're so geared in on the federal level that we really need to be more focused on local and state, because there have been some cities, there have been some states that still upheld where they have an oversight committee for consent decrees, and that's very important. Now, even though consent decrees don't do much, but they do enough where the president had eradicated it from the federal level, okay? It goes on to say here that the administration aims to end the use of consent decrees, arguing they hinder, demoralize, and demotivate law enforcement according to the Fraternal Order of Police. That is because on some small scales, consent decrees was actually having police officers to get fired, having them to go to court. It was almost infringing on their qualified immunity protections. And this is why this is important. If we can't eradicate qualified immunity from a federal level, can we do it from a city level, the local level? Can we do it from a state level? And this is why not just voting for Republicans, not just voting for Democrats, but why it's important to be registered to vote and what party is going to help your community and your neighborhood the most. Okay? So let me go back here just a little bit. It goes on to say here, Alabama frequently in the top 5 for murder rates. You also have Missouri features promoting in the top 10 list due to high violence in areas like St. Louis. South Carolina, consistently high homicide rates over the last 20 years. But you didn't see that President Trump deployed any National Guards or deployed any federal law enforcement agents to any of these cities like Tennessee, Alaska, Arkansas, South Carolina, any of them. You didn't see that. And simultaneously, what President Trump has been doing, he's been signing a ton of executive orders that a lot of us really forgot about. I'm pretty sure there's a website. I could look it up for you guys. I'm pretty sure there's a website of all the executive orders that President Trump has signed. The question is, are these executive orders all going to become federal law? They're going to become legislation and bills that may go to Congress, the House, and the Senate to be passed? I just don't know. But we should be very, very aware of a lot of protections and oversight that has been eradicated and eliminated by this administration. Is very, very important. So you're like, okay, so this happened last year and there's no more troops really deployed in a lot of these cities. What's the point of this video then, Blacklogic? Because it had me thinking about the uptick of police violence just in general. And then some of the things that I feel like was a testing ground. Because some people, like, you hear people online always talking about they believe they are in a simulation. They believe they are in the matrix. But I also believe that it's a testing ground where administrations like the Trump administration, they do all these little things. They create all these little buzzes and enact laws and sign these executive orders just to see what they can get away with, right? So let me give you more context here. I wanted to pop this in to see what Gemini was going to say, right? Because I wanted to know, how could this administration federalize cities, not the whole entire state? How could they federalize cities? Because the states here, and I'm going to read this a little, bear with me. In the United States legal and constitutional framework, there is no direct mechanism for a president to completely federalize or dissolve a city's local government and take over its day-to-day municipal operations, with the exception of DC, which falls under the jurisdiction of Congress. However, when people refer to federalizing a city, they are typically referring to executive branch exerting overriding federal authority over local jurisdictions. A president has several specific legal and executive mechanisms to achieve this, primarily involving law enforcement, military deployment, and financial leverage. He did all of these, okay? He deployed national groups. He federalized, the federalized law enforcement he deployed them in certain municipalities, stating that they were guarding federal buildings. And then he stated that he wasn't going to fund any of these blue cities, okay? And this was kind of in his surge and purge of mass deportation of illegal immigrants, which in regards I was for to a certain degree, right? Anyone inside of our country is illegal. They should come through the right way, right? Because they do hurt and harm a lot of our communities because of cheap labor and other things that I just won't get into right now. Now, it goes on to say here, what's exactly how the president can exert federal control over local areas. And he did this as well. The Insurrection Act of 1807, okay, by invoking that. It states that the president can deploy active duty U.S. military troops and federalized National Guard units within a state to suppress civil order, insurrection, or rebellion, to enforce federal authority, okay? And that's what he stated, that these cities, and you guys heard it, were being taken over by terrorists, these people who are illegally in our country. So again, it's just the wording. People always tell you when you guys were in school, high school, college, it's all about the wording. You can tell somebody F you and say it very intelligently and very politely. It meant what it meant to you, but it may mean something different to them, okay? Number two, federalizing the National Guard Title 10. He did that as well. Deploying federal law enforcement agencies. He did that with ICE and CBP. He's done any and everything that he could. Again, it's not that this is, how can I say, some sort of ploy to take over these cities, but I believe that this was a sort of a test of how he could take over these cities and militarize these cities, and let alone federalize these cities, okay? Protecting federal property was one of the reasons. Enforcing federal law was another reason. Number four, DOJ consent decrees and civil rights investigation. The word consent decrees keep coming up, does it not? If a local municipal agency, most commonly a police department, is found to have a pattern of practice of violating civil rights, the Department of Justice can intervene. There it is. If a local municipal agency, most commonly a police department, is found to have a pattern of practice of violating civil rights, meaning being very discriminatory, whether it be your race, religion, your creed, whatever it may be, right? They're being discriminatory. The Department of Justice can intervene. Not anymore, because he has eliminated that. So now, none of them, if any of these police departments, are under federal investigation. Their common condition is the color of their skin and the color of their votes. See, that's what this is about. He's radicalizing an entire nation. If you notice that he's cut Title III, he's cut Section 8 of the SBA, and all of these things linked to Black people. Now, see, here's the thing about when you come out publicly and you agree with some of the things that the president has done, like the eradication of mass illegal immigrants, then you are a Trump supporter. You can't be a policy supporter, right? But my question is this, right? Because this is unfortunately not good at all. Because I'm connecting the dots here. And I look at the uptick in violence of police officers, and I kept saying consent decrees, qualified immunity. So now consent decrees and qualified immunity are no longer bumping heads, right? Because a lot of these local, state, and federal judges was trying to figure out, okay, are they violating? We keep having this police department. We keep having these city precincts come up with discriminatory acts. And now they're eradicating statistics. President Trump has basically written executive orders. So all the statistics that the federal government was taking about race-based crimes, whether it be your religion, your color, your sexual orientation, he's literally eradicating it all. And he's calling everything DEI. He's calling everything DEI. So when he cut the funding for the SBA, there was a story that broke in Alabama where these so-called DEI subsidies of the government programs were given to white business owners. For some reason, there's all of these people, some of them Black, who have been radicalized to think that DEI means Black people, Hispanic people, and maybe a couple of Asian people. I don't know why people think that. I know it's very easy to listen to someone like myself, get online, talk to you, tell you a bunch of things, you go run with it. But for you to really, check the fact checker, so to speak, or verify the things that I'm stating versus other people stating, you'll come to the truth. DEI, has supported, have funded every single demographic in America, white, Asian, Hispanic, and Black. Now, the amount of help and resources and funding in these government subsidy programs, as we talk about the percentages, it helped white people at a higher percentage than it did Hispanic people. It helped Hispanic people at a higher percentage than it did Black people. It helped Asian people at a higher percentage than it did Black people as well. So nevertheless, did it help Black people? Yes, but we were at the bottom of that as well. So it don't matter what legislation, what subsidy programs, whether it be a small SBA loan or grant, or as people will say, because again, these corporate entities that a lot of people worked at, what did they do at your job? When they created the DEI office, what did they do? Or the Equal Opportunity Office, what did they do? They did a lot of smoke and mirrors, did they not? What they did was they appointed a Black man or a Black woman or Hispanic man or Hispanic woman or an Asian person. But majority in all of these Fortune 500 businesses, a lot of these corporate business, they appointed a Black person. So automatically people thought that this was all DEI, that it was Black people receiving. That's because people do not look below the surface. You don't believe that there's freshwater sharks, do you? Yep, there's a freshwater shark. Because, wow, I just want to take the word apart because it sounds like people are not really understand that consent decree was a stepping stone towards eradicating qualified immunity. And this is why, again, I'm really trying to inform, motivate, charge people to start voting on the local and state level, because this is utterly important, because the Trump administration has lifted every cap. They have removed every barrier. They have literally wiped away every guardrail on a federal level, right? There's really no oversight. There's no statistics being collected. Federalization of a city is a legal operation. That's what's important here, because it has happened in this country before. There are certain things that people have done that have federalized a lot of our cities. Because when you look at the Insurrection Act of 1807, this is the statute that allows the president to deploy active duty U.S. military into a state if he declares it by executive proclamation, that there is an insurrection of a domestic uprising that the state government cannot control. And this was actually invoked by Eisenhower at Little Rock, by the Kennedy at Ole Miss. And it was also enacted by Johnson in Detroit and George H.W. Bush in Los Angeles in 1992. In every one of those cases, it was invoked with the governor's consent or at the governor's request. Now, Trump has floated the Insurrection Act multiple times. I just wonder, was this a test? Because during these midterms, don't forget midterms are in November, I think November 3rd, if I can recall correctly. During these midterms, I wonder if this is going to be another tactic or strategy that he may impose. He can make it very, very difficult for people to vote by federalizing these cities. Now, I've been talking for a while. Let me see what you guys are stating. Go back up here. Good morning to you as well. B1, everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. All right. See, Eddie says President Trump did not put anyone on a hit list, but you leftists have tried how many assassinations attempts? Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh. You know, I love with the right, and I'm not left at all. I'm not right, left, center. I'm not anything. I'm just giving you guys the truth here. The problem with people who are radicalized like this, they believe that they believe they have a position or that they mean something. A lot of these people who say comments like this, they're nobodies. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm being very brutal this morning, because there's nobodies like this because they automatically label you as something and they don't have an idea of what the hell and who the hell you are. They don't. They just radicalize. And that's what this administration has done, more so than any other administration that I've been alive for. I don't remember the Biden administration radicalizing this much, right? Now, granted, there have been a lot of people on a so-called left that have attempted assassinations of President Trump. So there's truth there. But at the same time, Trump did not put anyone on a hit list, but you leftists, okay? So I like the claim. I want to go back here and show these cities. So if that's the case, Eddie, why didn't President Trump do the same thing he did in those blue cities, in these red cities where there's more crime, where they're the top 5 murder capital rates? Why didn't he employ federal troops there? Why didn't he put federal troops around the building in these areas where they're considered red states? Just a question. Just a question. I'm going through some of my comments here. It states here, you're stupid. If after you have caused another assassination attempt on Trump, you're lying free. I have no idea what that means. Okay, you Dems are stupid. Okay, cool. I'm not a Democrat, so it means nothing to me. Per capita doesn't mean more murders. Democrat cities have more murders, and I would rather have a city with one murder, but okay. I guess we're not, really looking at. Let me blow this up for the low IQ people that's chiming in here. According to research by the think tank Third Way and data from CDC and FBI, the red state murder gap indicates that states with Republican leadership often experience high violent crime rates, particularly in the South and West. Okay. Republican-led states with high murder rates. Okay. So I don't, consistently experience high per capita murder rates compared to states that voted for Joe Biden. Oh, you didn't see the highlight. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't put that down there, did I? You want me to read that again for the people who are chiming in thinking that I'm a Democrat or a Republican? I'm neither. But anyway, I digress. TT says, love what you're putting down, brother. Neither party has our best interests in mind. One side is fighting for immigrants. The other statu quo. BF needs to galvanize locally and vote in blocks. Absolutely. Okay. Politicians are not heroes. Thank you for chiming in, listening while driving to work. Be safe. They are all in on trying to destroy American values and turn this country into communist Muslims. I believe that. Not the Muslim part, but into a very communistic country. I believe they are complicit. Okay. And here's the thing about people when they do this whole right-left thing, that's because they pretty much voted for, the right, or they voted for the left. So they feel like they're part of a team. They feel like they have to take a side. They feel like they have to take up for the person that they voted for. If you talk about Kamala, I'm a Republican. I've been a Republican for 4 years. And then when I start talking about the Republicans, I've been a Democrat for 4 years. You can't win here on Blacklogic. You can't win on this platform because you can talk about the Republicans, you can talk about the Democrats, and I'm just going to go, okay, I'm just going to give you the truth. See, there's not a lot of channels where they're just going to give you the truth. Then you got people who are all Republican, MAGA this and MAGA that, and Trump is doing a great for America and make America great again. Then you got, Kamala should have won, and that's why we're at war. They're going back and forth. No, we're just going to diagnose power here and give you guys the truth. Now, mechanism 2. Title 10 Federalization of the National Guard. We talked about it because under normal operations, the National Guard works for the governor, no less. He didn't care about that. A president can federalize the Guard under Title 10 and pull it away from state control. This is what happened in Alabama in 1965 when Lyndon Johnson, federalized the Alabama Guard to protect the Selma to Montgomery March over Governor Wallace's objection. Because Governor Wallace wanted those Black people who was in Selma to Montgomery to be brutalized by the police, but Lyndon Johnson federalized the Alabama Guard to protect those marchers. Wow. This is another reason why Lyndon B. Johnson had all these Black people that were originally Republicans. You got to understand our history, family. For a very long time before Lyndon B. Johnson and Martin Luther King got, together and had a bunch of talks, we were Republicans, okay? And I'm not talking about we, me, and you. I'm talking about the majority of Black people at the time were Republicans. After this act of, federalizing and sending, Alabama Guard to protect them while they were marching, as well as signing the Civil Rights Act of 1963 and 1965, this is one of the reasons why overnight, over 85% of Black Americans became Democrats because of these protections, because of the Civil Rights Law. But nevertheless, that tool today still exists. Now it's on the shelf and President Trump has been toying with this, but believe me when I tell you, it is politically explosive. Now, number 3. Now, this is the one for DC specifically, which is my hometown. And I talked about this when he sent these National Guard troops, he deployed them within DC. It's called the Home Rule Act of 1973. And this, what we all know by now, that DC is not a state. And matter of fact, when President Clinton was in office, he approved the tag, and the tag, again, it states that, taxation without representation. I remember that tag. And all the while I'm thinking, why didn't you do anything while you was in office, Clinton? Why didn't you make DC a state? But nevertheless, DC is not a state, and he approved the tag that says taxation without representation, right? When it comes to DC under the Home Rule Act, Congress has a constitutional authority to repeal Home Rule with a simple majority in the House and 60 votes in the Senate. It has not happened because 60 votes have not been there, no less. But the current congressional math makes the vote closer than it has been in 50 years. So I'm just wondering, in 50 years, it's getting closer and closer and closer. So when President Trump says federalize their cities, he's not making this up. He is reading off a menu that exists in the U.S. Code. The question is not whether the twos are real. The question is whether we let him pick one. Because again, as I'm just looking at a lot of the comments that people are making, and they have been radicalized by this administration, just as though people were radicalized under the Biden-Harris administration, right? Should we ever have people, because you disagree with legislations and policies, to go out try to assassinate the president? Absolutely not. We live in a republic. You'll keep hearing all these politicians, Republicans and Democrats, say the democracy is at hand. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a democracy. And I know some of you are going to allude to that, it's a hybrid system. But at the end of the day, it's right there in the Constitution. We live in a republic. Plain and simple. Okay? Plain and simple. That's just the nature of the beast. And I'm going to show you the website that I created. I usually have it prepped. Okay? And we're going to go over some of the things that I believe that you guys should know when it comes to. Now, here's a site right here, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with it. It's called ourvoicevote.org. And this is a site that anybody can come to and just, either register to vote, okay? And register to vote don't mean that you're going to register to be a Democrat. It doesn't mean that you're going to register to vote to be a Republican. It doesn't mean that you're going to register to vote so you are already prepared for the midterms if you decide to vote. Again, for Black Americans who are listening to me, our ancestors, I don't want nobody to, lie to you or put a bug in your ear. Our ancestors died and fought for us to have the right, okay? I'm like on a repeater, the right to vote. If you don't want to vote for the Democrats, don't vote for the Democrats. If you don't want to vote for the Republicans, don't vote for the Republicans. If you don't want to vote, don't vote. But listen, it's very critical that you do vote on a local and state level because this is going to have the most impact on your life. Now, when it comes to the federal election, good luck, because who knows? But nevertheless, if you come right here to Constitution, right? I made it very simple for people to understand the three branches of the government and the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, is all one sentence. You can learn very quickly of your rights given to you by the Constitution. I also have the additional amendments, 11 through 27. You can read that as well, like a very popular one back in 1920, women's right to vote, direct elections of U.S. senators, federal income tax authorized, abolish poll taxes. We talked about that when Kamala Harris was talking about you have to have voter ID laws. They were stating how this is somewhat of a poll tax and that how the Constitution has eradicated this, which is a lie. Voter ID is not a poll tax. I believe in voter ID. I don't care who put forth the legislation. It could have been the independents, could have been the Republicans, it could have been the Democrats. In order to vote in the most powerful country in the world, in the most powerful office in the world, again, federal and state, you should be a citizen of this country, full stop. Not a legal resident, not on a long-term visa, not on an Einstein visa, not on H-1B visa, student visa. No, you should be grade A 100% a U.S. citizen to vote on any level within our country. So real ID, passport, birth certificate, whatever. If they believe, and again, they keep trying to pander to Black folk, like, wait a minute, this is going to harm Black voters because Black voters don't have IDs. Yeah, we have IDs. You have to have an ID to drive. It's called a driver's license. Most people have a picture ID. You need that to open up a bank account, sign checks, etc. Right? I would like to believe that most Americans have their birth certificate, or they can apply and have access to their birth certificates, no less, as well as their Social Security card, right? So again, they trump up all these different tactics, the Democrats, that is, in order for, in order to fearmonger Black folk to continue to vote Democrat. Here, I'm not going to do that. Vote for whoever you want to vote for, what's going to be best for you, your city, your neighborhood, and your community. And they want us to get on a bandwagon. Well, the Democrats haven't treated you right. Maybe you should vote Republican. No, I'm not going to play that game. That's a game that, again, we have been losing for a very, very long time. Okay? For a very, very long time. If you notice, when the Biden administration was in office, you had mass illegal immigration. And for people, I guess, within the Black populace, for people that didn't affect, they didn't understand why people were voting for President Trump. Because if you lived in Chicago and you saw thousands of illegal immigrants dropped off, and your Black mayor, like Mayor Johnson, Brandon Johnson, that is, evicted Black people out of community centers, made deals with the Black church so they can house some of these illegal immigrants, had these illegal immigrants at the police precinct sleeping on the floor in different, areas, but they never did that for Black folk. All these 50 billions of dollars that Chicago came up with, they never did that for the majority of their populace, which are Black people in Chicago, right? They never did that for them. So do I judge Chicago and say Chicago turned red and there's a bunch of Black people wearing MAGA hats and red hats saying they're voting for Republicans? Do I judge them on their decision? No, they voted based upon their current situation. But for some reason, all these other people around the nation who look like me and otherwise, whites as well, can't believe that these Black people in Chicago voted for President Trump. Well, he stated that he was going to get all these illegal immigrants out of their city so they can go back to work, because they were taken up literally. And I don't want to say take, okay? That's a little rhetoric on my part. They didn't take it. They were offered by a lot of the business people in Illinois, because instead of hiring, let's say, Dante, Derek, and Eric, I can, I got to pay them at least minimum wage. I can hire, instead of hiring 3, I can hire 6. I can hire Gonzalez, Julio, Wayne. I can hire illegal immigrants, no less, and I can hire double the amount. So again, we have to understand what both political parties have been doing. So we have to start voting, being informed, being intelligent, and voting on power, right? And I've stated this before. Political Action Committee, PACs. Now we understand that the average medium wage for the typical Black American is around $45,000 to $55,000, right? But I can tell you this, we have $20 a month. If you got Netflix, if you got Prime Video, if you got Prime, if you got HBO Max, if you got Disney, okay, if you have some sort of subscription service that you pay for every month, you have $20 to form a political action committee. And believe me, if you get 100,000 people giving $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 every single month, I guarantee candidates will start listening. See, politicians is almost like they don't listen if you don't come with the money. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have to play the game if we're going to move an inch economically. If we're going to, garner and gain the resources and support by legislations and policy for our neighborhoods and our communities, we're going to have to start putting our money where our mouth is, right? The vote is very powerful. Oh, we're not going to vote for you. They're like, okay, well, they're coming with votes and they're coming with money. You see what I'm getting at? This is not a one-trick pony. We need a little bit of money and we need the votes. So again, I want you guys to think about that, because there's a lot of organizers in your area. I look at our brother Black Alpha. I look at our brother Afro Elite. They're doing big things in their cities. They're doing big things around. And I'm pretty sure there's organizers like you guys out there. But again, in order to gain an inch, in order to gain some sort of, in probably not in my lifetime, unfortunately, just because of the way that this country is set up, equality. But we're going to persuade a lot of these political candidates. And again, if a Republican come with an agenda that we can get behind, vote Republican. If a Democrat comes with an agenda that we can get behind, vote Democrat. If an independent, so on and so forth, okay? So on and so forth. The problem is we have been just going left, 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 left. No change, no change, no change, no change. Left, 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 no change, no change. We've been doing it for too long. And I'm not saying, oh, well, he talking about don't go left. No, I'm not saying go right. I'm just saying open our damn eyes and read. We're very intelligent, extraordinary people. And maybe because some of the things in our lives have us distracted. But believe me, if this administration and all the things that have been going on have not motivated you, intrigued you, grabbed your attention just to read some of these legislations and policies of what a lot of these politicians are going to do when they are in office. See, when I think about a Roland Martin, that fat bastard, okay, he's been pushing Black people to become Democrats for far too long. And he said something, I forgot how long ago it was, but he said something like, if you are a non-black voter, then shut the hell up. Something like that, right? Basically, if you're not going to vote, then you don't have nothing to say. Well, yeah, we have a lot to say. That's why we hold our vote as, we hold our vote as leverage. The problem is we've been voting and like, what y'all gonna do for us? You did something for the Asians. You did something for the Hispanics. You're always doing stuff for white people. What you gonna do for us? We didn't vote for you. Let me get back to you guys on that. Hold on, I got a meeting. Let me check my schedule here. Yeah, let's revisit that next year. Let's revisit that next term. But see, now I see my brothers and sisters in the city town halls going to these different municipalities and calling out what you have not done and telling them, we're not voting for you guys. Because here's the thing. Black people, we've been down, destitute. We lived through it all. They're not going to pressure us to vote for nothing again, or at least they shouldn't. And again, there may be bills. Let me be very, very clear about this. There may be bills and legislation on a state and or federal level that may support you and assist you. I'm not telling you don't vote. I'm just saying it's an option. You can vote. You don't vote. You see something that's going to assist you, your family, maybe your community, vote on it. If you don't see nothing, your choice. Don't vote on it, or just vote because you want to vote. But that's the issue. I'm tired of voting for nothing, aren't you? Aren't you tired just to vote, just to vote? You know how you like, well, I got to go to this meeting. I guess I'll show my face. You're checking the block, right? You're like, the big boss is going to be in there, so I guess I'll show up. I don't have nothing to brief, but I'm going to show up. You've done that before. You're just going to go just to go. You're in the meeting. Oh, yeah, like you're interested and you're not. But again, let me see what else anyone is stating here. Okay, I read that. 1345, they are all in on trying to destroy American values and turn this country in. Sean says we are getting crushed by the Democrats at the state level. They are behind gentrification in all these Democratic-run cities. And I agree. You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. Don't forget, Obama is the one that gave all these rights. Okay. And I'm not saying that I'm against it, because a lot of people think that I'm against something because of the way I say it. All these rights to the LGBTQ plus community. And I think at the time, qualified immunity was on the chopping block. He could have eradicated that. He could have imposed consent decrees, made it stronger, but he didn't. When Obama was in office, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you the two demographics of people that he did most for. No, I'll give you three. He did he signed a lot of legislation and executive orders and policies for Native Americans who already are getting reparations by this country. Don't you notice that anytime we talk about reparations, you always hear some people in the comment section, and they be from all walks of life. They be black, white, Asian, Hispanic. You guys ain't getting no reparations. Stop asking for a handout. But anytime I bring up Native Americans and that they get reparations every single year, they have nothing to say. It's like hush over Jerusalem. Yeah, Native Americans get reparations, ladies and gentlemen. They have all of these treaties signed. And how do they get those reparations? Who are paying those reparations? You, me, them, they, all of us, right? Because it's tax dollars that are paying Native Americans reparations. Am I against Native Americans getting their reparation? No. But I'm just letting you know they get reparations, and it's funded by the U.S. tax dollar. When Obama was in office, he did things for Asians. Okay. When Obama was in office, he created and did a lot of things when it came to the rights of the LGBT community. But when it came to black folk, he didn't make black folk a protected class like he did LGBTQ. He didn't do that. He could have. Asian people became a protected class with the COVID-19 bill. Did he do that for us? Absolutely not. No, he didn't do that. Now, granted, Biden was in office. Biden didn't do it either. But they could have. They could have wiped away qualified immunity to have police officers and law enforcement to have ensures, just like if a doctor does malpractice and he can continue to do malpractice and unaliving people, he loses his license. He can no longer practice medicine. He is literally banned. But what happens is when a lot of these police officers, they do something wrong, they harm a citizen, they just go to the next precinct. They go to the next city or town. No, they will be banned because they can't be insured. So again, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, being ready to vote is important. Being ready to vote is important. And I'm going to dive deep. You can come to this website again, is ourvoicevote.org. You can type in your zip code, and I put in here where you guys can find the representatives and see what they're passing, see what they are proposing. Okay? You can do that as well. We also have a police accountability database and who have they been harming the most. And again, this number is slightly higher. I'm still waiting for the numbers. And again, the Trump administration is eradicating statistics. So it's even harder to get them to be more accurate nowadays, because usually you have 2 to 3 or 4 government entities reporting a certain margin of error of numbers, but you can kind of get that number, you know, somewhat exact. And then we have different websites here and links. You can look at the complete, you know, searchable database of police shootings database and how they've been harming people. And then you can click register up here, and this will take you to where you can register to vote. And that is at vote.gov. Okay, vote.gov takes you right there. But nevertheless, you can go and check out this site all you want, because there's some other resources you guys can go and find assistance, etc. Okay. But nevertheless, I thank you guys for joining me here this morning. You guys have a great day.